Rajiv Kumar Chaturvedi is a professor of ecology and climate change at the Birla Institute of Technology and Science. He joins us from Pilani in India. Professor, thank you so much indeed. Did you hear those two clips? I mean, they're very contrasting clips. We have an African representative who says he's happy, a European representative who says, actually, you know what, we haven't done nearly enough. What do you think?
Yeah, uh, yeah. So first of all, I'm also very happy that at least the loss and damage that has been, like, it's a major victory for the vulnerable countries. The global temperatures have risen by approximately 1.1 degrees centigrades, and this is creating a lot of havoc across the world, especially in the vulnerable countries like Africa, Pakistan, Bangladesh, India, and so many other vulnerable countries. And now these countries are not the ones who are responsible for creating the climate change problem. The problem has been created by the historical emissions that have been coming from developed countries. So this is a major victory for such vulnerable countries that at least a fund has been established. But I also agree with the European representative that still we are a long way to go in terms of operationalizing the funds, who will fund it, how it will be managed, etc. I think all these questions has to be settled. But what is really most important for me is the fact that more commitments for emission reductions are not forthcoming in this COP27. The global temperatures have risen by 1.1 degrees centigrades, and we need to cut down emissions so that we can stabilize the warming below 1.5 degrees, or in worst cases to 2 degrees. But still, we are nowhere near that goal, and that will mean that howsoever we try to adapt, howsoever we try to provide funds for loss and damages, the enormity of the loss and damages will be so high that it will not be able to compensate. So it is really, I'm sad as well as a bit happy at the same moment about what has happened at COP27. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost as if there's a spin being put on the conference for people to be presented with this loss and damage fund as a huge victory and hiding the failure behind that huge victory. When you look at the bigger picture in terms of limiting the temperature rise around the globe to 1.5 degrees, the United Nations has recently been indicating that that is almost not going to happen, guaranteed that almost that won't happen. So are we essentially looking at almost no movement forward from previous COPs in terms of emissions and the uses of fossil fuels? Because that's the thing that's going to kill us all in the end.
Of course. Yeah, I completely agree with yeah, so this is a bit pessimistic, but it is true that even in my opinion, I feel that 1.5 degree may not be achievable now, like given that we have already delayed action. So far, our emissions are still hitting records year after year, and we are yet to peak the global emissions. So yeah, so this is quite pessimistic, but we need to be optimistic. We need to look forward into a future. So I think what we need to do now, that we need to salvage the 2 degrees centigrade target now. We have to be honest to ourselves. We need to make the pledge to ourselves that we need to limit the warming below 2 degrees. It is very essential for our coming generations and for their prosperity, for their future. Otherwise, the impacts of climate change will be so humongous, so big, that loss and damage that we are talking about today will not be able to do any justice to the countries which will be impacted by the kind of climatic extremes and events that will strike them in future. So this is a really a wake-up call for the whole world. Maybe now we need to come together. We need to, I think, we also, apart from this ceremonial meetings, maybe we need to work a little bit more on technology and the management side. Uh, yes.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally understand what you're saying. Less political talking and more positive action. Rajiv Kumar Chaturvedi, thank you so much indeed.